It begins on a humid night, February 18th, 1997. Salvador is restless, the air swollen with the thick smell of salt and grilled acrid from street vendors. Music drifts from the bars of Pelourinho, drums echoing up the colonial facades, painted in pastel blues and yellows. But away from the tourists, in a narrow street near the Comercio docks, the city hides a silence. At 6:20 the next morning, a delivery driver, João Figueiredo, parks his truck beside an abandoned warehouse once used for storing sugarcane. He steps down, stretching his back, muttering about the heat. Then he sees it, a body, lying half-hidden behind a rusted oil drum. João later tells police he thought it was a drunk, maybe a homeless man. But as he approaches, he sees the hair first. Long, black, matted against the concrete. Then he sees the rosary, a small wooden one, clenched tight in the young woman's right hand. Her name was Luciana Pereira, just 19, a university student, the kind who filled the streets at night with laughter, carrying notebooks, dreaming of futures bigger than the city. But by dawn, her dream was gone. Her throat bore bruises, her wrists, ligature marks. Her shoes were missing, and her skirt had been torn. And still, that rosary remained, its beads sticky with blood. The first investigators on scene, Delegado Renato Alves and Perita Ferenc Marta Silva, worked in silence. Marta noticed the body had been arranged, almost deliberately placed. Luciana wasn't dumped carelessly. Her arms had been folded across her stomach, as though someone wanted her to be at rest. But then why the bruises? She whispered. Renato didn't answer. He only watched as Marta pried the rosary from her hand, one bead snapping loose, rolling across the concrete like a tiny piece of bone. The city at first didn't notice. In 1997, Salvador was large, chaotic, a port city where crime wasn't rare. A single dead girl in the wrong neighborhood barely cracked the morning news. Police filed their reports, but there was little evidence. No fingerprints, no witnesses, no clear motive. Luciana's friends told investigators she had been out late at a bar with classmates. She left alone around midnight, promising she'd walk home. No one saw her again until João found her. But for Luciana's family, the silence was unbearable. Her mother, Dona Marissa, lit candles outside their home in Liberdade. Neighbors gathered to pray, voices rising in lament. The image of Luciana smiling in her graduation uniform was taped to the gate, and beneath it, a question scratched into everyone's heart. Why the rosary? By March, the case had grown cold. Renato Alves kept the file in a drawer marked pending. He admitted later that he thought the rosary was a coincidence. Maybe the girl carried it herself, a token of faith. But Marta wasn't convinced. Too perfect, she said. Too deliberate. She began checking crime logs, cross-referencing with morgue records, looking for patterns that no one else believed in. Then, 6 weeks later, her instincts proved right. Another body appeared, this time in the Jardim de Ala district, near the beach. Another young woman. Another rosary. Same ligature marks. Same quiet placement. And now, the city could no longer look away. The whispers began. Parents warned daughters not to walk home after sunset. Bars grew emptier by nightfall. Taxi drivers said a shadow lingered near the docks. A man with a limp, always watching. Or were they just stories? Or was Salvador facing something it had never known before? A serial killer? Luciana's case had been filed under isolated homicide. Now, it was something more, something darker. With 2 victims, the police could no longer pretend. Delegado Alves reopened the investigation. The newspapers splashed the headline, "The Rosary Killer." The city panicked, and Marta, staring at the second girl's hand, clenched so tightly around her beads that the skin split, whispered what no one wanted to say aloud. "This won't be the last." April 6th, 1997. The tide is low at Jardine d'Ala Beach. Vendors are setting up their stalls, shaking canvas tents free of the night's dampness, stacking coconuts in neat pyramids for the first thirsty customers. And then, at 7:15 a.m., a boy running with a kite stumbles on something half buried in sand and seaweed. At first, he thinks it's driftwood, but the hair gives it away. Long, tangled, dark. He screams. The second victim is Renata Sampaio, 22 years old. A waitress at a beachfront bar, she was last seen serving beers to a group of tourists on Saturday night. She clocked out just after midnight, her co-workers saying she was tired but cheerful. By morning, she was gone. Her body lies face up, partially covered with sand as though someone tried to hide her, but not well enough. The tide had lapped at her ankles, leaving a line of salt crust against her skin. Her hands are positioned carefully on her chest, and in her right palm, yet again, a rosary. This time a black one. The beads press so hard in her fingers that they leave tiny circular impressions. Delegado Renato Alves stands at the edge of the cordon, his shirt already damp with sweat. He knows the press will come soon. The city thrives on spectacle, and this is spectacle of the worst kind. Forensic investigator Marta Silva crouches over the body, squinting in the morning glare. "Same marks," she murmurs. "Ligature, bruising to the neck. Arms placed, not natural. But here, there's something else. Renata's right shoe is missing. Not both, just one. And on the sand, a trail of prints, bare feet, dragging slightly, leading up to the highway where they vanish into the blur of morning traffic. By noon, the reporters arrive. Microphones jab forward, cameras clicking. They shout questions at Alves. Is this connected to the first girl? He says nothing, but silence is an answer of its own. The papers run with it anyway. Rosary killer stalks again. In Luciana's neighborhood, people whisper about the devil. In Renata's, they whisper about man. A tall one, thin, who had been seen at her bar a week before. He sat alone, drinking only water, staring. When Renata tried to serve him, he refused with a smile. "Just watching," he said. No one saw him leave. Marta interviews Renata's co-workers. One, a dishwasher named Paolo, swears he saw that same man by the seawall the night Renata disappeared. Paolo describes a limp, a dragging step, like one leg heavier than the other. But when asked for a face, he hesitates. "It was dark," he says. "I only remember the way he walked, like he carried something too heavy." The investigation expands. Police increase patrols near the beaches, the docks, the narrow alleys where the shadows cling longest. Women carry keys between their fingers, walk home in groups, call taxis instead of braving the streets. But fear hangs heavier than the humid air. By mid-April, 3 weeks after Renata's murder, a tip comes in. A woman named Helena Duarte swears she was followed while leaving her job at a textile factory near Comercio. She heard the footsteps, slow, dragging, and when she turned, she saw a figure in the half-light, a man in a faded blue shirt, clutching what looked like a leather strap in one hand. She ran, ducking into a bus just as the doors closed. The man didn't chase. He just stood, staring, the bus window catching his eyes. Helena swears they were pale, almost gray, like smoke. Alves listens carefully, then frowns. If this is our man, he's not hiding anymore. He's letting people feel him. Marta agrees. It's ritual now. He wants them afraid. The city police are not well equipped for serial crimes. Brazil in the 1990s lacked the specialized unit seen in the US or Europe. Pattern killers weren't a concept the public was ready for. But now, with 2 bodies in 2 months, patterns can't be ignored. In the morgue, Marta studies both victims side by side. Luciana, 19. Renata, 22. Different backgrounds, different neighborhoods, but the same marks. Same arrangement. Same rosary. She notices something others haven't. The beads are different sizes. Luciana's were small, wooden, the kind sold outside churches. Renata's were black, heavier, polished. Both cheap, both common, but placed deliberately, like tokens or trophies. She brings this to Alves. He leans back, tapping his pen. So what are we saying? That he buys a rosary for each victim? That it's part of the ritual? Marta nods. Or, she adds, he takes them from somewhere else. Somewhere important to him. And then comes the first letter, delivered not to the police, but to the newsroom of Atard, Salvador's largest daily newspaper. Written in shaky Portuguese, no signature, just a few lines. They walk at night. They carry sin. I give them prayer. 1 bead for each soul. I will finish the chain. The city explodes. Salvador has a killer who writes. A man who believes, or claims, that he is saving souls. The headline the next morning cements it. The Rosary Killer Speaks. Alves holds the letter in his hand, his jaw tight. He doesn't say what he's thinking, but Marta does. If he's counting, she whispers, then how many beads does he need? The rosaries, after all, don't end with just 2, and the chain has only begun. May 2nd, 1997. Salvador is alive with the rhythm of Autumn drums in Pelerinho Square. Tourists clap, children dance, the air hums with music. But in the outskirts, in a forgotten strip of road between Itapua and the airport, the music is silence. The only sound is the buzzing of flies. At 9:30 a.m., a municipal worker cutting grass near a drainage ditch sees something tangled in reeds. A flash of fabric, a pale arm. He steps closer, heart thundering, and finds her. The 3rd victim. Her name is Patricia Gomez, 24 years old. She worked as a receptionist at a small dental clinic. She was last seen the night before, boarding a bus from Largo du Tank. She never came home. Her body now lies half submerged in muddy water, her clothes soaked, her hair plastered against her face. Her right hand clenches a rosary, this one made of clear plastic beads, the kind children use in Sunday school. Forensic examiner Marta Silva arrives first, crouching by the ditch with gloved hands. She sees the familiar signs, ligature marks around the throat, arms carefully crossed over the stomach. But here, there's something different. Carved faintly into Patricia's wrist, shallow but deliberate, is the outline of a cross. Not deep enough to bleed much, just enough to be seen. Delegado Renato Alves watches, jaw tight, cigarette burning down between his fingers. He's escalating. Marta mutters. Before it was beads. Now he leaves a mark. Alves exhales smoke. He wants us to see his hand, to know it's him. The press swarms within hours. 3rd victim found, killer on the loose. Families barricade their daughters indoors. Taxi fares triple at night, as women refuse to walk. Salvador, a city of festivals and faith, becomes a city of curfews. Neighbors describe seeing Patricia waiting at the bus stop alone around 10 p.m. A man stood across the street, in the shadows, leaning on a cane. He didn't move, one witness says. Just watched. Others say they heard a bus come, saw Patricia board, but she never arrived at her stop. Did the man follow her onto the bus? Or was he waiting at the next corner? Police traced the bus route. Patricia tapped her fare card at 10:06. She was supposed to get off at Rua de Rita de Mata Esquira by 10:30. But her card shows no exit. Somewhere along the line, she vanished. The driver remembers nothing unusual. Too many faces, too many stops. But one passenger remembers a tall, thin man with a limp, sitting quietly in the back, clutching a small black bag. In the morgue, Marta lays out the rosaries side by side. Wood, black, plastic. Each different. Each clenched in death. He's collecting, she whispers. Not just trophies. He's building something. The police finally call on outside help. Capitao Eduardo Meneses, from the Policia Milita's intelligence unit, joins the case. He's blunt, skeptical. We're dealing with a predator, he says. But don't romanticize it. He's not a genius. He's just a man who knows the city better than we do. He uses the chaos as his cover. Alves bristles at the tone, but deep down he knows Meneses is right. Still, the killer's letter from last month haunts them. 1 bead for each soul. I will finish the chain. How many beads does he need? 10, 50, 100? Each rosary holds dozens. If he means to complete a full set, how many lives will it take? Then, another break. A market vendor named Jose Araujo comes forward. He swears he saw a man limping away from the drainage ditch the night before Patricia was found. He describes him clearly this time. Tall, gaunt, late 30s, wearing a faded blue shirt with a missing button. In his hand, Jose says, was not a cane, but a length of cord. The police circulate the description, but in Salvador, faded shirts and limps are everywhere. The killer could be anyone, a dock worker, a fisherman, a priest, even a neighbor. The anonymity of poverty shelters him. On May 10th, Attard receives another letter. This time it's longer, the handwriting more deliberate. You look for me but cannot see. I'm the silence between prayers. She cried, but I gave her peace. Soon the chain will close, and then the city will rest. The newsroom debates whether to publish. When they do, panic spreads like fire. Churches hold vigils. Mothers walk daughters to bus stops. Bars post signs. NO women leave alone after dark. And Marta, staring at Patricia's body photos, notices something chilling. The cross carved into her wrist. It's not random. It matches the style of crosses etched into pews at Igreja de São Francisco, one of Salvador's oldest churches. She recognizes it from her childhood. The angle, the shape, almost identical. She tells Alves. He rubs his forehead, exhausted. So what are you saying? He prays there. Marta shakes her head. No, he belongs there. If the killer's chain of rosaries ties back to São Francisco, then he isn't just choosing victims at random. He's choosing them for a reason. And Salvador, already drowning in fear, now wonders something darker. Is the rosary killer not just a man, but a man of God? The rains came heavy in Salvador that June. Streets flooded knee-deep, buses stalled, and thunder rolled across the bay like war drums. But rain did nothing to wash away the fear. 3 women were dead. 3 rosaries. And now, whispers turn louder. He is a priest. He is a ghost. He is the devil himself. June 14th, 1997. In the working-class neighborhood of São Caetano, 20-year-old Claudia Ferreira finishes her shift at a corner grocery. She waves goodbye to her co-workers at 9:15 p.m. The rain is steady, and she holds her umbrella tight. Her path home should take 10 minutes. She never arrives. At dawn, children playing near the viaduct on Avenida San Martin see her umbrella floating in a puddle. Police arrive minutes later. Claudia's body lies beneath the concrete overpass, arranged carefully, as if laid to rest. Her hands folded on her stomach, her right palm clenching a rosary. This one made of red beads, small and bright, like drops of blood. Delegado Renato Alves stares at the body, drenched in the rain, his cigarette extinguished in the downpour. Forensic investigator Marta Silva kneels beside Claudia. The ligature marks are there, the bruises, and again, carved into her skin, a cross. This time deeper, more deliberate, as though the killer wanted to leave no doubt. But there's something new. A piece of fabric tied loosely around Claudia's ankle. Cheap, gray cloth, like the torn hem of a cassock. Marta holds it up, rain dripping from her gloves. "This isn't coincidence," she mutters. "He's mocking us." The city's churches become battlegrounds of suspicion. At San Francisco, priests deny any connection. Yet worshippers whisper that the killer must know the liturgy, the symbols, the rosaries. Maybe he serves at the altar. Maybe he hides among us during Mass. Police interview clergy, sacristans, altar boys. Most are cooperative, some insulted, a few defensive. One name surfaces more than once: Padre Miguel Andrade, a middle-aged priest who walks with a limp. He tends to the poor in Sao Caetano, known for his stern homilies on sin and purity. Parishioners say he is devoted. Others say he is strange. He looks at women too long, one whispers. He scolds them for their skirts. Alves and Marta attend one of his masses in secret. They watch from the back pew as Padre Miguel preaches fire and punishment. His voice rises above the rain hammering the tiled roof. His eyes, pale, almost gray, scan the congregation. Marta stiffens. Pale eyes, limp, a cane hidden under the altar. She scribbles in her notebook. Could this be him? But suspicion is not proof. And proof is what Salvador demands. On June 20th, a breakthrough. A bus conductor comes forward. He remembers Claudia on his route that night. She sat alone, near the back. And he remembers the man who boarded just after her. Thin, gaunt, carrying a small black bag. When the bus neared Avenida San Martin, the man leaned over and whispered something to Claudia. The conductor didn't hear the words, but he saw her stiffen. Moments later, they both got off. That was the last time he saw her. Marta presses for details. The conductor hesitates, then says he walked with a limp. By now, the city is boiling. Mothers forbid daughters from leaving the house. Men volunteer to form vigilante patrols. And newspapers splash bolder headlines. The priest of death. Alves resists the frenzy. But privately, he is shaken. The killer has grown bolder. The letters prove it. Because on June 23rd, another arrives at Atard. This one is longer, written on church stationery. You close your doors, but still I walk. I am not hiding. I am chosen. They carry temptation. I give them grace. One bead for each soul. When the last prayer is spoken, Salvador will be clean. The city explodes with paranoia. Church pews empty. Priests receive threats. At San Francisco, someone smears blood on the gate, scrawling, "Stop the devil among you." Marta studies the stationery. It bears the faint watermark of the church's office. "He's taunting us," she says. Or he's one of them. Delegado Alves authorizes surveillance on Padre Miguel. They follow him through markets, to the hospital, to the docks. He visits the poor, blesses children, limps up stairways to administer last rites. Nothing overt, nothing damning. Yet at night, his figure disappears into the alleys. Always alone, always limping. Meanwhile, Marta pores over the rosaries. Wooden, black, plastic, red, each cheap, common. But when strung together, they form a sequence. For different styles, for different victims. She threads replicas in order. The chain begins to take shape. He's not just killing, she whispers. He's building something. A chain of the dead. And then, another disappearance. July 1st. A student named Daniela Nunes, 21, vanishes after class at Universidad Federal de Bahia. Her friends last see her near the campus gates at 8 p.m., notebook under her arm. By dawn, her notebook is found, soaked in rain, pages torn, rosary beads scattered nearby. No body. Not yet. The killer is no longer leaving bodies immediately. He is taking his time, holding them longer. The city holds its breath. And the question now claws at Salvador's heart. If the Rosary killer is truly a man of God, how do you catch him without tearing apart the very faith that binds the city together? The rain keeps falling. The chain keeps tightening. July in Salvador carries a heavy heat, the kind that sticks to your skin and lingers even after sunset. But heat is nothing compared to fear. The Rosary killer has already taken 4 women, and now a 5th, Daniela Nunes, the student, has vanished. For the first time, the killer has left behind scattered beads without a body. The city waits and dreads the inevitable discovery. It comes 4 days later. On July 5th, fishermen casting nets near the Bay of All Saints notice something snagged in the reeds along the mangroves. At first, they think it's garbage. But when they pull closer, the water tells the truth. Daniela's body, floating face up, hair fanned out like seaweed. Her hands folded, her right one clutching yet another rosary. White plastic beads this time, glowing eerily against the skin. Delegado Renato Alves is called to the scene. He stands with the fishermen, their nets forgotten, as police pull the body to shore. Daniela's throat bears the familiar ligature marks. But there is something else, something worse. A word carved into her chest. Just one word, shallow but legible. O-R-A, Latin for pray. Forensic investigator Marta Silva stares at the letters in silence. She has seen brutality before, but never such calculated symbolism. He's speaking now, she whispers. Every body is a sermon. And yet the killer grows careless. Near Daniela's body, snagged in the mangroves, divers recover something unexpected. A torn scrap of black fabric, soaked but intact. Stitched into it is a faded laundry tag, the kind used in communal washhouses. Marta takes it to the lab. The faint ink reveals a location, Hospital Santa Luzia. It's a psychiatric hospital on the outskirts of Salvador. Alves and Marta visit. The corridors smell of disinfectant and mildew. Records are incomplete, many destroyed by termites, but one stands out. A former patient discharged in 1995, Elias Morera. Tall, gaunt, mid-30s, partial paralysis in his right leg from a childhood accident. Described as religiously fixated, often muttering prayers, obsessed with rosaries, violent toward women. The staff remember him. One nurse, eyes wide, says he used to carve crosses into his skin, said he was preparing his body for God. The puzzle shifts. Maybe it isn't Padre Miguel after all. Maybe it's this Elias, a man hidden in the cracks of the city. But where is he now? Hospital records say he was released to a halfway house in Libertad. That house burned down last year. No forwarding address. No trace. Still, suspicion lingers on Padre Miguel. His limp, his pale eyes, his stern sermons. Marta draws 2 names in her notebook, Miguel and Elias. Which man walks the streets at night? Which man leaves rosaries in the hands of the dead? The press smells blood. One tabloid prints Padre Miguel's photo beside a headline. Is this the Rosary killer? Parishioners riot. Miguel stands before his church, denying everything. I serve God, not death, he insists, his cane trembling in hand. But the accusation sticks. Attendance plummets. He becomes a prisoner in his own parish. Meanwhile, Attard receives yet another letter. She prayed, but her words were empty. I gave her true prayer. One bead closer. one step holier. When the chain is complete, I will kneel at the altar, and the city will see me. The handwriting matches the earlier letters, but tucked in the envelope this time is a small object, a single rosary bead, cracked down the middle. Marta examines it under magnification. The crack isn't natural. It's been split deliberately, as though with a knife. He's taunting us, she says, sending pieces of the chain before it's done. Alves grows restless. So what do? Stake out every church. Watch every priest. Hunt every madman with a limp. His frustration boils. He knows the killer is slipping between shadows, mocking them. And with every week, another woman dies. Then, on July 15th, a chilling development. A survivor. Her name is Marina Oliveira, 23, a seamstress from Federico. She stumbles into a police station at 2 a.m., bruised, trembling. She says she was walking home when a man grabbed her from behind, dragging her toward an alley. He whispered in her ear, telling her not to scream, that he would give her peace. She fought back, scratching his face. A car drove past, headlights flooding the alley. The man released her and limped away into the night. Marina's description: tall, thin, limping, pale eyes. But here's the detail that shakes Marta most. Marina says the man smelled strongly of candle wax. Not the brine of the docks, not the smoke of the favelas. Candle wax, the kind burned in churches. Now the city is divided. Is the Rosary killer the escaped psychiatric patient Elias Morera? Or is it Padre Miguel, cloaked in cassock and sermon? Or, more terrifying still, are they somehow connected? Because the chain is growing. 5 beads, 5 women, and the killer himself has promised. When it is finished, he will kneel at the altar. But at which altar? And how many beads until then? By August 1997, Salvador no longer sleeps. Doors bolt at sundown. Bars close early. Mothers keep daughters indoors. The Rosary killer has taken 5 women, carved his sermons into their skin, left his beads clenched in their hands. And now, with a survivor describing pale eyes and the scent of candle wax, the city looks toward its churches with suspicion. Police pressure mounts. Delegado Renato Alves can't leave his office without reporters demanding answers. Is it Padre Miguel? They ask. Is it true he's hiding in cassocks? Alves says nothing, but inside he is torn. Every instinct points to Miguel. Every fragment of evidence points to someone else. Elias Morera, the former psychiatric patient with a limp and a history of violence. 2 men. 2 possible monsters. On August 4th, another body is found. This time in the catacombs beneath the Igreja de São Pedro, a small church near Campo Grande. The janitor discovers her while checking the storage rooms. A candle had burned low, its wax pooling across the floor. And beside it, laid out on a linen sheet, is Isabel Cruz, 26, a primary school teacher. Her throat bears the marks. Her hands folded. A rosary in her palm. Blue glass beads this time, catching the candlelight like frozen tears. And carved into her collarbone, Ora pro nobis. Latin, pray for us. Marta Silva kneels by the body, flashlight trembling in her hand. She notices wax hardened along Isabel's hair, dripped from above. The killer lit candles as he worked. Alves stares at the altar steps nearby. He's not just hiding in churches, he mutters. He's performing here. Public outrage explodes. Crowds gather outside churches, hurling stones, chanting for priests to reveal the killer. Miguel himself is attacked on the street, his cassock torn, his cane stolen. He limps away bruised but alive. In a press conference, he swears his innocence. I am hunted not by the devil, he says, but by gossip. But doubt festers. That same week, police finally receive a lead on Elias Morera. A homeless man in Liberdade swears he saw him, weeks ago, sleeping under a bridge. He prayed all night, the man says. Counted beads with his fingers. Whisper about cleansing. Police scour the area, but Elias is gone. Like smoke. Marta grows obsessed. She pins maps to her office wall. Dots marking where each victim was found. Docks, beach, drainage ditch, overpass, mangroves, and now, a church crypt. She draws threads between them. The pattern begins to resemble a cross sprawling across the city itself. A cross built of corpses. Could it be coincidence or deliberate? Meanwhile, the killer writes again. This time, not to a tard. He delivers the letter directly to São Francisco Church, sliding it under the sacristy door. The priest who finds it faints. You doubt me still? I have given you proof in prayer and blood. Soon I will kneel at the altar with my chain complete. Then you will see. Then you will believe. Attached to the letter, half a rosary chain, assembled crudely from beads taken from the victims. Wood, black, plastic, red, white, blue, threaded on fishing line. 6 beads, 6 women. Marta holds it with gloved hands, her stomach twisting. He's keeping count, she whispers, and he's showing us the chain isn't done. August 12th, another disappearance. This time, Sylvia Andrade, a 19-year-old law student, last seen leaving the university library. Her bag is later discovered in the plaza, notebook pages torn out, a single rosary bead taped to the cover. Alves feels the city slipping through his fingers. The governor demands results. The police form night patrols near every major church. Roadblocks spring up. Yet still, Sylvia is gone. 3 days later, her body surfaces in a storm drain, washed half a kilometer from where she was taken. The familiar marks, the folded arms, the rosary, this one silver, glinting beneath layers of grime, and carved into her shoulder, Dominus. Latin again, Lord. 7 victims now. The press no longer calls him the Rosary Killer. They call him O Padre de Mort, the priest of death. But Marta notices something else. The Latin phrases carved into the last 2 victims, ora pro nobis, Dominus. They aren't random. They're fragments of a prayer. Piece by piece, like the beads, the killer is assembling words into something larger. She digs through Daniela's autopsy photos. The word carved there, ora, combined with Isabel's, ora pro nobis, and now Sylvia's, Dominus. She lays them in sequence. They form the opening of the Litany of the Saints, a prayer often recited during processions in Salvador. The killer isn't just building a rosary chain. He's building a prayer chain, made of flesh and death. That night, Marta can't sleep. She walks in her childhood church, sits in a pew, stares at the altar. The candlelight flickers. She imagines him there in the shadows. The limp, the pale eyes, whispering the prayer as he carves it into skin. And she realizes something terrifying. The Litany of the Saints is long, too long. If he intends to carve the entire prayer, then 7 victims are only the beginning. How many more will die before the prayer is complete? And when he says he will kneel at the altar, does he mean to do it in public, before the city, his chain complete, his ritual finished? For Salvador, the nightmare is not nearing its end. It is only approaching its crescendo. By late August 1997, the city is a fortress of fear. Police checkpoints guard church doors. Patrol cars idle outside dormitories. But Salvador is vast. Its alleys, plazas, and mangrove edges impossible to police fully. The Rosary Killer knows this. He thrives on it. And then comes the first true sighting. On August 19th, at dusk, A market vendor named Dona Alzira swears she sees a man watching women near the Largo do Pelerinho. She notices him because he never blinks, his eyes a strange pale gray, almost white in the fading light. He limps when he walks, and he carries something in his hand, small, round, dangling. Beads. By the time police arrive, he's vanished into the maze of cobbled streets. Delegado Alves nearly tears his hair out. The description matches both suspects, Elias, the ex-patient with a limp, and Padre Miguel, who has the same cane-assisted gait. The city buzzes with gossip. Is the priest walking among us? Or the ghost of a madman returned? But Marta Silva digs deeper. She interviews Dona Alzira herself. The woman swears the man whispered under his breath as he limped away. Just 2 words, Sancta Maria. Another fragment of the Litany of the Saints. 2 nights later, another letter arrives, this time nailed to the door of a convent in Graca. Do not guard your churches. I walk where I please. My pale eyes see through your locked doors. Soon the chain will be full. Soon the prayer will be finished. Then I shall kneel before you, and you will weep with me. Enclosed is another piece of the growing rosary chain, now 7 mismatched beads strung together. It clinks softly in Marta's hands, a mockery of devotion. The press run headlines. The pale-eyed killer. The name sticks. On August 23rd, the 8th victim is found. Carolina Mendez, a 22-year-old dancer, discovered inside the dressing room of a closed theater in Comercio. Her hands are folded, her rosary clutched tight. Carved into her thigh, Sancta Maria. The phrase from the witness sighting, confirmed now in flesh. But what unsettles Marta most isn't the body. It's the discovery of fresh candle wax on the stage itself. Still warm. The killer was there only minutes earlier. Had they missed him by a breath? Police scramble, spreading nets across the district, but nothing. Alves finally admits what Marta has long suspected. We are hunting a ghost who knows this city better than we do. Yet Marta won't let go. She reviews hospital records from when Elias Moreira was institutionalized. One nurse's note from 1991 jumps out. Patient repeats the litany endlessly. Fixation on prayer as cleansing ritual. Often stares without blinking. Eyes pale, almost translucent. Her blood runs cold. The pale eyes. The prayer. The limp. But then doubt returns. Because Padre Miguel, too, has pale eyes. And he limps. And he knows every verse of the litany, as any priest would. The line between hunter and hunted blurs. August 27th. It is nearly midnight when a patrol officer radios in. A man seen entering the abandoned convent of Nossa Senhora das Merces. Candlelight flickers in an upper window. Alves and Marta rush to the scene. Inside, the corridors smell of incense and mold. Their flashlights cut through the dark. On the chapel floor, arranged carefully in a circle, are dozens of candles. And in the center, another victim, Helena Duarte, 30, a nurse. Her body is posed on the cold stone floor, hands folded, rosary clutched. Carved in her abdomen, Ora pro nobis, Sancta Maria. The litany grows. The killer is no longer scattering fragments. He's building full sentences. And then Alves sees it, scrawled on the chapel wall in soot. 9. This is not the 9th victim. Helena is number 8. So who is number 9? They search the convent, heartbeats hammering in their ears. In the cellar they find it, a mattress, soiled and reeking, surrounded by candle stubs. Rosary beads scattered across the floor, and scratched into the wall, over and over, one phrase, Dominus miserere nobis. Marta runs her hand across the words. He's living here, she whispers. sleeping in these walls. But there is no sign of him, only the echo of his prayer. The next day, the city wakes to a storm of terror. 2 victims in less than a week. A killer with pale eyes and a limp, slipping through locked doors, writing prayers in the skin. But Marta sees something that others do not. The prayer fragments aren't random. They're sequential. He's working through the litany line by line. If that's true, then she knows what comes next. Sancta Maria, ora pro nobis. And after that, Sancta Dei Genitrix. The killer isn't done. He's only just begun. By September 1997, Salvador felt like a city that had stopped breathing. Every family whispered the same question. When would he strike again? The Rosary killer had taken 8 women. Now he held the 9th, Patricia Ramos, alive. For the first time, he had broken his rhythm. For the first time, investigator Marta Silva believed there might still be time to save someone. And then the package arrived. Inside it lay 9 mismatched beads strung together, a scrap of Patricia's blouse, and a message written in cramped, slanted script. When the 10th bead is ready, I will show you. She'll be beautiful, pure, eternal. Then you will believe. The countdown had reached its end. Marta studied the string of beads until her eyes blurred, her fingers tracing the shapes, chipped edges, faint burns. And then she saw it. The 9th bead was chipped in a way she recognized. She had seen it once before in an old crime scene photo of the first victim. The realization spread like ice through her body. The beads weren't random. They had been scavenged from rosaries stolen at each murder scene. Piece by piece, he had been building one rosary out of death, and it was almost finished. The discovery led Marta back to the Nossa Senhora convent, where the first body had been found months earlier. She returned alone on a damp September night, flashlight trembling in her hand, the sour smell of mold rising from the cellar. On the wall, new words were scrawled in charcoal. Sancta Dei Genitrix, ora pro nobis. Beneath it, a single fresh line, Et Virgo Virginum, ora pro nobis. The 10th prayer. Her stomach nodded. He was here. From the shadows, a voice answered her thoughts, low, calm, almost tender. You followed the beads well, Senora. You understand my prayer. Marta spun, her flashlight catching pale, eyes glinting from the dark. The rosary killer stepped forward, gaunt, barefoot, his hands clasping the nearly finished rosary. Behind him, Patricia, bound to a wooden chair, breathing but terrified, her eyes wide and wet. They never prayed for us, the man murmured. Not the priests, not the saints, but I make them pray now. Each bead, each soul, it builds the chain to heaven. His voice cracked between reverence and madness. Marta steadied her voice, forcing strength she didn't feel. You're not building a prayer, she said quietly. You're building a graveyard. The man's lips curled into something that was almost a smile. Graveyards are where prayers live. And then the struggle began. Marta grabbed the only weapon at hand, a rusted iron bar lying on the damp floor. She swung hard, striking his arm. The rosary slipped, beads scattering across the stone like drops of rain. The killer howled, not in pain but in anguish, as if something sacred had been torn apart. He lunged at her, striking her shoulder, splitting skin. She staggered, but pushed forward, slamming him against the cold wall. The string snapped. Beads rolled into the shadows, clicking into silence. He fell to his knees, clawing at the floor, trying desperately to gather the fallen beads. Behind him, Patricia kicked free of her bindings, the chair toppling. Marta grabbed her, pulling her up the cellar stairs as the killer's voice rose behind them, no longer calm but ragged, broken, hysterical. The prayer is not finished, he screamed. The prayer is not finished. His cry echoed through the stone like the toll of a church bell gone mad. When the police finally arrived, the cellar was empty. The beads were gone. Only the blackened prayers scrawled on the walls remained. Patricia was alive, trembling, traumatized but safe. The city exhaled for the first time in months. Mothers held their daughters tighter. Churches filled again. Candles burned at every altar. But the Rosary killer was never found. Some believed he had vanished into the tunnels beneath the convent. Others whispered that he drowned himself in the mangroves, Rosary clutched in hand. Martin knew the truth was simpler and far more terrifying. He was still out there, waiting for another prayer, another bead. And so the story ends, or perhaps it only pauses. 9 women dead, 1 survivor, a rosary nearly completed, and a ritual left unfinished. Some in Salvador say the killer's rosary still exists, hidden in the convent walls, waiting for its 10th bead. Others believe it was never about beads at all, but about control, about twisting faith into something monstrous. And maybe that's why the story still lingers. Because prayers end when we say amen. But his prayer never ended.